Psalm 138. I will praise thee with my whole heart. Before the gods I will sing praises unto thee. I will worship towards thy holy temple, and praise thy name for thy loving kindness, and for thy truth. For thou hast magnified thy word above all thy name. In the day when I cried, thou answered me, and strengthened me with strength in my soul. All the kings of the earth shall praise thee, O Lord, when they hear the words of thy mouth. Yea, they shall sing in the ways of the Lord, for great is the glory of the Lord. Though the Lord be high, yet hath he respect unto the lowly, but the proud he knoweth afar off. Though I walk in the midst of trouble, thou wilt revive me. Thou shalt stretch forth thy hand against the wrath of my enemies, and thy right hand shall save me. The Lord will perfect that which concerneth me. Thy mercy, O Lord, endureth forever. Forsake not the works of thy own hands. Greetings, friends. Welcome back to the broadcast. I'm Shawn. Today we are looking for some wisdom, some encouragement to start our week. I just read to you Psalm 138, but we're going to cover Psalm 139 and Proverbs chapter 9 today. Psalm 139 is this psalm that reminds us of the inescapable God. No matter where you go, no matter where you hide, there he is. He's everywhere. He's omniscient. There's no escaping his eyes. You know, there's this saying that I've said to a couple of people over the last decade who they want to, they think if they abandon everything and disappear and, move across the country and abandon everybody that they know, friends and family, that somehow they will find a new level of happiness or something like that. And I've had to say this a couple of times to a couple of different people, which is this: wherever you go, there you are. Wherever you go, there you are. No matter where you go, guess what? You're still that person. You still have those problems. You can't run from them. You're still there, and you're going to bring your issues and your failings and all these things into whatever it is that you're starting next. Wherever you go, there you are. In like manner, wherever you go, there he is. You can be like Jonah, jump on a ship and travel the complete opposite direction of where God is calling you to be, but guess what? You're going to end up where God wants you one way or another. He's inescapable. And that's what this psalm comforts us with. This is not a, oh, bummer, wherever I go, there God is. This is a, thank God, wherever I go, God is. So I want you to open up your hearts this morning. Let's see what the Word of God has to say to us. Psalm 139. O Lord, thou hast searched me and known me. Thou knowest my down sitting and mine uprising. Thou understandest my thoughts afar off. Thou compassest my path and my lying down, and art acquainted with all my ways. For there is not a word in my tongue, but lo, O Lord, thou knowest it altogether. Thou hast beset me behind and before, and laid thy hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high, I cannot obtain unto it. Whither shall I go from thy spirit? Or whither shall I flee from thy presence? If I ascend up into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there shall thy hand lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, even the night shall be light about me. Yea, the darkness hideth not from thee, but the night shineth as the day. The darkness and the light are both alike to thee. For thou hast possessed my reins, thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and that thy soul knoweth right well. My substance was not hid from thee when I was made in secret, and curiously wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Thine eyes did see my substance, yet being imperfect. In thy book all my members were written, which is continuance were fashioned, when as yet there was none of them. How precious also are thy thoughts unto me, O God! How great is the sum of them! If I should count them, they are more in number than the sand. When I awake, I am still with thee. Surely thou wilt slay the wicked, O God. Depart from me, therefore, ye bloody men, for they speak against thee wickedly, and thy enemies take thy name in vain. Do I not hate them, O Lord, that hate thee? Am I not grieved with those that rise up against thee? I hate them with perfect hatred. I count them my enemies. Search me, O God, and know my heart, and try me, and know my thoughts, and see if there be any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. That is Psalm 139. 2 thoughts. How precious also are thy thoughts unto me, O God! How great is the sum of them! If I should count them, they are more in number than the sand. When I awake, I am still with thee. It's hard to imagine that God would think about us individually, right? Like, just try to imagine that God is pondering on you, thinking about you, caring about you, looking down on you, looking out for you, willing things for you, sending angels to help you. Like, these are impossible thoughts for me, to think that God cares that much about me, to be having thoughts about me. David says, how precious are they? Like, how precious is it for God to think about me? And he says, how great is the sum of them, the number of them? I can't even count them. And then secondly, David says, search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. How many of us really want to pray that? Lord, search my mind. Search me, see if there's any wickedness there. I think that would be a fearful prayer for many of us, because we know he'll find some. Let me read this commentary to you from Matthew Henry about Psalm 139. He says, God has perfect knowledge of us, and all of our thoughts and actions are open before him. It is more profitable to meditate on divine truths, applying them to our own cases, and with hearts lifted to God in prayer, than with a curious or disputing frame of mind. That God knows all things, is omniscient, that he is everywhere, is omnipresence, are truths acknowledged by all, yet they are seldom rightly believed in by mankind. That's a good statement, right? Like, we all know intellectually that God's present everywhere, that he knows all things, and that he's at all places at all time, but we don't necessarily behave like that, right? We're not actually engaging that thought regularly. God takes strict notice of every step we take, every right step and every by step. He knows what rules we walk by, what end we walk toward, what company we walk with. When I am withdrawn from all company, thou knowest that I have what I have in my heart. There's not a vain word, not a good word, but thou knowest from what thought it came, and with what design it was uttered. Wherever we are under the eye and the hand of God. We cannot, by searching, find how God searches us out, nor do we know how we are known. Such thoughts should restrain us from sin. Beautiful words by Matthew Henry there. Knowing that God is everywhere, that He knows our every thought, that He's right next to you right now. His presence is so true. Knowing this should refrain us from sin, shouldn't it? Like we should be thinking, am I really going to do this in front of the Lord? Am I really going to say this in front of the Lord? Am I going to dwell on this thought in front of the Lord? Am I going to watch this filth in front of the Lord? Let's move on. See if we can find some wisdom this morning from Proverbs chapter 9. The praise of wisdom continued. Let's begin. Wisdom hath builded her house. She hath hewn out her 7 pillars. She hath killed her beast. She hath mingled her wine. She hath also furnished her table. She hath sent forth her maidens. She crieth upon the highest places of the city. Whoso is simple, let him turn in hither. As far for him that wanteth understanding, she saith to him, Come, eat of my bread, and drink of the wine which I have mingled. Please note, it's from the perspective of wisdom, right? Like the table is made, wisdom is available, it's free if you would just come to the table and consume it. Verse 6, Forsake the foolish and live, and go in the way of understanding. He that reproveth a scorner getteth to himself shame. He that rebuketh a wicked man getteth himself a blot. Please note, in other words, you're wasting your time. They're stiff-necked. They're full of pride. They'll just lash out at you, right? Like you try to reprove somebody who's a scorner, you just get it back in return. You rebuke a wicked man, and he'll just hit you, right? You get a blot. Verse 8, Reprove not a scorner, lest he hate thee. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love thee. Now, that's the difference between wise people and idiots. A wise person can receive instruction, can receive more understanding, and they'll be thankful. A fool, they'll just lash out, start the name calling, right? You know, when you get into debates with people about any subject, and rather than present evidence and critical thinking, they just insult you. This is how you know you're dealing with a complete moron. When you're dealing with a real foolish person. And you'll find in the world that many are like this. They can't actually think critically. They think what they want to think, believe what they want to believe. You try to interact with them, they'll just resort to childish name-calling, insulting. They'll start foaming at the mouth. They'll walk away from the conversation. They can't receive instruction. They can't be taught. But you give instruction to a wise man, and he will love thee. Verse 9, Give instruction to a wise man, and he will yet be wiser. Teach a just man, and he will increase in learning. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding. For by me thy days shall be multiplied, and the years of thy life shall be increased. If thou be wise, thou shalt be wise for thyself, but thou scornest, thou alone shalt bear it. A foolish woman is clamorous. She is simple and knoweth nothing. For she sitteth at the door of her house on a seat in the high places of the city, to call passengers who go right on their way. Whoso is simple, let him turn in hither. And as for him that wanteth understanding, she saith to him, Stolen waters are sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. But he knoweth not that the dead are there, and that her guests are in the depths of hell. Stolen waters are sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. It's like seduction, right? You'll see that Solomon often warns. These are wisdoms that he's written to his sons, and he often warns them about the seduction of women and not to fall for it. Not to fall into that ditch, not to fall into that pit that leads to the depths of hell. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Wisdom is not even a thing that you can even begin to possess until you've learned to fear God. Everyone out there who doesn't fear God, they might be like smart, right? They might have some, what we would call book intelligence, but they have no wisdom of any kind. No wisdom of any kind because they don't know God, they don't fear God. Christians who call themselves Christians, but yet they have no fear of the Lord, they have no fear of sin. Fools is what they are. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. This is where it all starts. And knowledge of the holy is understanding. I pray that you have been blessed this morning. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Please consider praying for me. I couldn't tell you how desperately I need it. And those of you who support this mission of truth, who are so generous to make this happen for everyone else, I am so grateful to all of you. Peace and grace be with you. And until next time, God bless.